Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is Monday. We have some news, potentially some coaching changes. Jim Knowles potentially to Duke is getting looked at. Justin Fry to Indiana. A lot of guys are up for grabs. Ryan Day usually makes changes after a loss to Michigan, so we're going to see who potentially could be moving on from the Woody Hayes, as well as who are some guys that we could be looking at. We're going to get into who's coming, who's going from a player perspective, and what this weekend means for Ohio State, who needs to win, who needs to lose, how to get it cranked up, ready to go. With that being said, as always, if you guys have questions, fire up the super chats. Super chats get us, you guys, right to the straight or the front of the line. We get going and answer your questions as always as fast as possible. So we appreciate the super chats; those are great for us. If you enjoy the content, please give us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, if you or Ryan Day, put in the comments what changes would you make and who would you sub in. I know there's some guys that are real popular on the chopping block for the fan base, as I'm guessing who you guys are going to put. And shout out where you guys are watching from. We love when you guys do that. Nevada, obviously, it was Black Sunday. In the NFL, they have Black Monday after the last regular season game where coaches get whacked. Yesterday, a lot of coaches got whacked, including Tom Allen, who got a $20 million buyout from Indiana. That puts Justin Fry in play. He's a captain at Indiana. His dad's a longtime high school coach. Jim Knowles, obviously, Mike Elko took the Texas A&M job, so Jim Knowles is automatically linked to the Duke job where he's been the DC, about 7 years ago. What are your thoughts on this year's staff? How much will remain intact? Again, we're not putting percentages on it, but generally after a loss, to Michigan in the last couple of years, we've changed some people out. Like Kevin Wilson went to Tulsa. Greg Stuara got fired. Kerry Combs got fired. There's been some wholesale changes. Matt Barnes obviously got whacked as well. Do you think there are some guys that are going to move on after the season, given where we're at post Michigan?
Well, I think we just have to be honest about kind of the pressures and the realities of being a head coach at Ohio State. And right now, Ryan Day's kind of in the middle of a storm. I mean, he's lost 3 straight games to Michigan. And despite the circumstances of the ones 2 years ago, despite the fact that this year's game was a virtual coin flip and, could very well have been a victory, instead it was a close loss on the road. I mean, he's lost 3 in a row. And when that happens, you've seen kind of the outcry from former players, which, again, I don't want to take this too far afoot right now, but to me, that has been kind of boorish. I don't like that. I don't like seeing the
No.
former players kind of, pile on. Now, who am I to say that to you as a former player? You may have a completely different opinion. But I just, look, I thought Jim Tressel had one of the greatest things. Jim Tressel was freaking Yoda and had some of the greatest sayings of all time. And one of the ones that I use in my everyday life all the time is that people need love the most when they deserve it the least. And I just think that, look, Ryan Day is our head coach, and whether we agree with everything he does, we can disagree with stuff. We can discuss tactics. We can discuss whatever we want to discuss. But like, this is when he needs our support, and I think stuff like that matters. I think stuff like that matters to recruiting. I think it matters perception of the program, how things are going, and you know I don't agree with everything that Ryan Day does. I don't agree with the way that Ryan Day calls every game. I don't agree with. Um, I mean, look, I think the elephant in the room, this year has been the play calling. I don't think the play calling has been particularly good this year on offense, and as a result, our offense is, I think we're 33rd in the country in scoring offense and 38 in the country in total offense after years at right near the top, 1, 2, 3. And but all we want to talk about is the defense. We want to talk about the defense being the problem. Well, we're number 2 in the country in scoring defense and number 3 in the country in total defense and 38 on offense, but we're talking about the defense. So it's just weird to me. But back to the topic at hand, I think some guys are going to be moving on. I think Ryan, this has been his MO when this stuff happens. We have the youngest, least experienced staff in all of major college, big time major college football. I mean, nobody's got a staff like it. If you look at the staff ages on our guys, when you throw out the outliers like, Larry Johnson and Jim Knowles and look at everybody else, it's like the kids club. And I think at some point some of the kids are going to get whacked or encouraged to move on down the line. And I think that's going to happen sooner than later. And I think the staff, I mean, it won't be a wholesale turnover, but I think you'll see at least a couple, maybe two or three, move on either by their own volition or with strong encouragement from Ryan, because he has to do that because he can't fire himself. And so somebody's got to be held accountable, because losing three straight to Michigan is never acceptable. And he's smart enough to know that.
Yeah, and it's been a long, strange trip. And Ryan is not scared to bullet guys. Again, when he took over in 19, I mean, the first thing he did was fire Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano obviously has proven to be a pretty good coach at Rutgers. Obviously, the 18 defense was not a great Ohio State Silver Bullet defense. But, I mean, after the 21 game, Greg Stewart was shown the door after the Rose Bowl. Kerry Combs was shown the door. Kevin Wilson went to Tulsa. Like, there's always like a little bit of an unevenness. Al Washington got whacked. That's the guy that, I mean, like 2 years ago or whenever it was, like Al Washington was up for the coordinator job at Tennessee, and we had that thing dead to rights. We had that whole story. He agreed to go, and then at the last minute, he had a talk with Ryan. He said, "Don't go. Stay here. You'll grow, whatever." And he turned down like a 3-year, like 4.5, $1.5 million a year deal. And then the next year, the defense wasn't good, and he wasn't a great linebackers coach, and he got fired. Ryan fired him, and Ryan, I was told, said that there's nothing to worry about. And then, a week later, like, he fired Al. So, again, he is not scared to bullet people and try to get his staff to where he wants it to be. And again, that's his right. He's the head coach. He has to hold guys to the standard that he wants them to be at. But, he's been determined trying to find the right mix. And, I don't know if that means, again, the most popular guy in every message board is Parker Fleming. Does he go? Do you promote James Laurinaitis? Again, the 2-year extension with the Rays last year is the most bizarre contract I've ever seen at Ohio State, given how poor our special teams have been during Parker's tenure. But I just think that it's going to be really interesting to see, does Justin Fry get a real shot at Indiana, or do they go with like a MAC head coach or a younger head coach? Does Jim Knowles get a real crack at Duke? I don't really believe that he does, just because he's an older guy. A lot of times when you're hiring a coach, you want like the young offensive wizard. That's kind of like the en vogue thing for a head coach now. But Jim Knowles is a guy that, I mean, I think he'd do a great job at Duke, just because you have to be a special type of coach to coach at Duke, because every team you play in the ACC is going to have way better players than you, way better athletes. Like, they're not going to have to recruit to the academic standards. It's like coaching Northwestern. You coach Northwestern, you got to go against Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Wisconsin. Like, you don't need like some crazy high ACT or SAT to get into those schools. But Northwestern, you have real grades. So I think it'll be fascinating to see who they go with. Nevada, do you think any of the current coaches will leave for head coaching jobs or other position jobs? Or do you think the guys will potentially just be let go?
I don't think I don't think Knowles wants to be a head coach anymore, and I don't think I think there's several candidates for the Indiana job that are better suited than Fry. And look, I'm not trying to be Mr. Mean, but what has Justin Fry done since he's been here at Ohio State that would scream, I'm ready to be a head coach somewhere? I mean, our yards per carry has been down steadily, pretty significant, almost a full yard since he's got here. Our recruiting, we haven't landed a 5-star since he's the next 5-star he lands will be the first 5-star that he lands since he's been through 2 full recruiting cycles. I mean, I thought the development of the line this year was fine. I thought it was okay, but it wasn't like some crazy amazing development job. So I mean, maybe guys like that get head coaching opportunities, but I would think that somebody who's got head coaching experience somewhere else is probably higher on their candidate list for Indiana. But it's Indiana, so who the heck knows? But I would bet against any of our guys going to other head coaching opportunities, and I would be looking at some of the younger guys to be kind of asked to move along or to look for greener pastures in other programs.
Well, yeah, I agree with you because our O line recruiting has fallen off since Stud left, and again, a lot of people hate Stud, he's a big fat ogre, whatever. But like he got us. I mean, he picked Dewan, Thayer Munford. Those are project guys that he developed into, and those guys have both started in the NFL as young players. Dewan's a rookie, and Thayer started a little bit as a rookie last year, as a second year guy this year. Luke Whippler, obviously, is a guy who's like a six man for the Browns. Obviously, Paris is a guy that didn't need a lot of development because he was kind of a franchise tackle from Jump Street. But I think Justin, if this wasn't Indiana where he played and was a captain, and his dad is a high school coaching legend, I don't think he'd be a candidate. But I think he's kind of an intriguing thing because he's like an Indiana man, and I think that's why he makes sense. But other than that, it's going to be interesting to see. Does Ryan get out of the nest a little bit and go kind of really challenge the coaching staff to get better? Does he go bring in a veteran, or does he stick with status quo? And again, I just think that when you're so kind of hot and bothered when it comes to promoting from within, you don't really get a ton of new uh, ideas. When all the people that you hire are interns that have been in the program for 6 or 7 years, you don't get outside ideas, you don't get outside ways of doing things, and I think that doesn't help the development of the program because again, no matter what you're doing in the program, there's always things you can fine tune and do better, and there's better ways to do things. And when you bring in guys from outside that say, hey, this is something that we did on offense or defense or pregame warm up or whatever, there's always nifty little things that you can pick up from other spots, and Urban, when he put his staff together in 12, Tom Herman said, this is how we run the no huddle. And Urban's like, I'm good with it. And Urban had huddled his entire life. Urban was, I love the huddle because I like seeing Tim Tebow stare in everybody's eyeballs and yell at him and scream at him and give him the play. And Tom's like, well, it's a waste of time. It's slow. This is a lot more efficient, quicker way. And Urban bought into it, and to Tom's credit, that's how we ran the offense, the no huddle. So, again, I think that, if Urban had hired an intern who'd worked under him his whole life, he wouldn't have dared question if we should huddle or not. And, Tom had the conviction to do it. So I think that's why it helps to get some other guys. Let's see. What was up? Thanks for the super chat, Todd. Appreciate you. Two Bones. What was up with Maserati Marv standing flat footed? I don't know. I mean, Marv on that slant, we broke that down last night. It wasn't a lot of effort. It wasn't a great route. It was slow. It got picked. Again, the coverage wasn't great. The coverage was it was a coverage that you should never throw that route into. That off inside leverage is tough to throw a slant into, especially. But if your guy jogs the slant, then you really have no chance because he's never going to get there. But I don't know. Marvin he's a special talent. Obviously, everybody loves him, and he's a great kid and everything. But there's sometimes where I watch him and he's not really going that hard. And again, I'm not trying to be the old head or the critical dude or back in my day. That's not my vibe. I'm not critical of the current players to a huge degree, but some of the guys, after the Michigan game, they're coming off the top rope on the players and on Ryan Day, and I try not to be that guy because I remember how much I hated the former players that did that when we lost. So I really try to be measured in my criticism, but Marvin, I don't think goes hard all the time, and I think some of it he wants to protect himself, protect his draft stock, not get his not get his nails dirty so he doesn't get hurt. And I'm sure he'll be a top 5 pick. He'll make a gajillion dollars, and that's great. But there's sometimes I just wish he'd go a little bit harder. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Am I off base on that?
No, I mean, look, it was just a terrible play. I mean, one of the reads that the quarterback is taught in that situation is when the cornerback, in this case Will Johnson, is staring at you, kind of squatting on that route and staring at you, you don't throw that. You just don't throw it. And I don't care if it's. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anymore with. Well, we're running RPO action, but it's not really an RPO because it's not an RPO, but it's kind of an RPO, but it could be an RPO. But that play was blocked up. The offensive linemen were blocking like it was running play. The play was blocked up that if he hands the ball to Trey Henderson, Trey's probably still running. And you've got Will Johnson squatting on the route, staring Kyle in the eye the whole time, playing inside leverage, and we still throw it. And no, Marvin didn't make a great effort during the play. He didn't make a great effort after the play. And that's we try to be honest on the show. We're not an OSU mouthpiece show. There are certain shows that are absolutely OSU mouthpiece shows. There are shows that just parrot the party line for Ohio State. I won't name those shows, but they're out there. And those shows, you can get some interesting information from those shows, because when those shows start turning on certain players or coaches especially, then you know those coaches are going to get whacked, because they don't go with that stuff unless they're being told to start picking on those guys. So it kind of goes both ways. They can be super positive, but they can also kind of give you an idea about being wacky. But we're just going to give it to you straight. That wasn't a great play by Marvin, and he's been absolutely fabulous this entire year. He's bailed us out so many times, made so many great plays. But that was just a crappy play, and unfortunately, it was an absolutely enormous play in a 0-0 game to give the other team the ball first and goal from the 7-yard line. Especially a team that is going to go for it on fourth down. It took them 4 plays to make 7 yards, but they made it, and they scored and 7-0, and and we lost by 6. So there you have it.
Yeah, and this is the player we're talking about. Like we broke this down last night. Will Johnson, who's a great corner, is looking right at Kyle. We run the little RPO, and again, if we hand this, I mean, we got this thing blocked. We got here. These guys are double teaming here. I mean, this thing has a real chance. If you hand this to Trey, I mean, he could. There's a lot of different lanes he could go through to cut it, but instead, Kyle just pulls it, and I think he just predetermined, hey, I'm going to throw it to Marvin on a slant. But I mean, after one step, I mean, this guy's got the slant covered. I mean, and Marvin, as great as Marvin is not running hard. I mean, that is not as fast as your hair is on fire. It's kind of jogging the slant, and Kyle throws it like he's going to run it, and he jogs it. And again, like just based on like where he's at right here, like, I mean, Marvin's got to cut this thing quick, and if he's going to do it like that, he's got to at least break this thing up. This guy jumps it. Again, I don't think this is great effort. And again, I think Marvin's fantastic, but like, he gets a pick right here. This guy gets a pick, and then you watch Marvin the rest of the play. I mean, he's just kind of like, he gets shoved, and he's just kind of like, walking. He's literally walking right here. And the guy's still up. I mean, the guys are still chasing him. Like, he's still up. He might think that he's down, but like Marvin's up here walking. This is a Michigan game. So again, like, I'm not trying to be like that guy, but like, dude, like, go get the guy down, like sprint. You're the fastest guy on the field. And this guy almost scores. I mean, we're lucky Kyle McCord gets his toenail or whatever, but I mean, like, again, like in a game like that, you got to be like balls out, hard as possible type deal. And again, like I said, I'm not trying to come off the top rope on Marvin. I know he's a great player, but there's sometimes I watch these guys and I'm like, is that really the effort that's going to take to beat a great team? I mean, I know we can beat Purdue and we can beat Indiana and we can beat Rutgers and whoever, but when it's these guys, man, you can't play. I mean, this is a tough gig to win. Nevada, this has been kind of a downer bit of a week with the with the playoffs kind of on the fringe. But we're about 3 games away from making it. If Louisville can beat Florida State, which can happen, Florida State's got their backup quarterback. Obviously, we need Georgia to beat Bama, and then we need Okie State to beat Texas, and we're in. Do you feel decent about that happening? I mean, it's really not that far fetched because, like, I mean, Texas is good, but man, they've had some issues.
Well, see, I think where I'm at, which is different than a lot of people, is one. I think we'll be number 5 tomorrow when they announce the college football playoff, which is different than most people. Most people are thinking 6. I think we're going to be 5. I think Florida. The game is the Florida State. I mean, Georgia's going to beat Alabama. Okay, so either Georgia or Alabama is going to make it. But yeah, we need Georgia to beat Bama. We need Florida State to lose. And then I think, from my standpoint, I think at that point it's irrelevant what Texas does, because Texas, I mean, if you look at the 3 criteria that the committee is consistent, and I know the committee's been nothing but inconsistent, but the things that they say that they look at are, show me your wins, explain your losses, and display game control. Game control means how dominant were you in your games? How many close games did you have? How many narrow escapes did you have in your games? Stuff like that. For Ohio State, our losses at number 2 on the road by 1 score in a game where we outgained them in yards, outgained them in first downs, and had the ball at their 20-yard line with a chance to win. The game ended on the other team's 20-yard line on the last play of the game. So that's about as close as you can get in terms of a game, in terms of winning, but we lost, and that's unfortunate. What's our wins? Well, on the road at Notre Dame and Penn State, which are good, they're good wins. Now look at Texas's loss, Oklahoma, not a great loss. What's their best win? At Alabama. Well, if Alabama loses to Georgia, that's not going to be a better win than against Penn State. And then you go to game control. Texas is very lucky to have not lost 3 games this year. They
Oh,
should have. They had one game go to overtime. They had another game that they won by 3. I can't remember the exact. I think they beat TCU by 3 points. They beat Houston by 7. They had another game they're trailing. They won 26-16. I mean, they've had some really narrow escapes this year. So the only criteria that they have over us is conference champion, and conference champion is only supposed to be the decider when you have 2 equal teams. I don't think we're an equal team. I think if you're just completely objective and say who are the 4 best teams in college football right now, I think it'd be hard to get past Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, and Ohio State. I mean, those are the 4 best teams. I don't think there's any question about it. And I ultimately think that that's going to be what's going to happen. Is I think Florida State's going to lose to Louisville, and when that happens, I think it's now. Would it be nice if Oklahoma State, who's a 14-point underdog, upset Texas? Sure, could it happen? Absolutely. But I don't think we need that to happen. I think we'll be number 5 in the college football playoff committee rankings. I don't think you drop from number 2 to number 6, losing the way that we did on the road against the number 2 team in the country. I just don't.
yeah. I mean, like I said, if strength of schedule means anything, we're in really good shape. Again, we lost to a team that was favored to beat us by 6 points on the road, hostile environment. It was a close game. We were throwing at the end zone to end the game. I mean, literally, like we're on. I'm going to go into this last play because this is like what heartbreak looks like. So, when you get a front like this where you've got a nose guard and a 3 technique, you have to expect a twist. They run a twist. Again, when they run a funky front, like they're not just going to straight rush like this, and this. Like somebody is going to move. Somebody's going to do something. So, sure as can be, they set a twist where this end comes in and he picks Donnie Jackson. And then this tackle loops around. They don't pass it off well. Donnie is kind of caught flat-footed. He's caught. This linebacker is here to draw Donnie's vision, so that this will affect him even worse because he's not going to have any idea that's coming. So, I think that versus this, I would set straight vertical. I would not set out like he did, but set vertical, pass it off. The tackle does a good job. Donnie just has to have a better feel for this. And again, this happens at the worst possible time. But this is not a hard stunt to pass off. I mean, this is a nose guard coming all the way around Josh Simmons, and Josh should be better than this. But Donnie needs to be way better than this. And I think his foot gets stepped on by Carson here, which is what caused him to fall down because it's not like that end is that strong. He's just going to put Donnie Jackson on the ground. But again, this is the worst time to have a bad play because this is when you need it. This is 20 to 28 seconds to go. You're on the 40-yard line. We're throwing at the end zone. You got Marvin. You got Emeka. If Kyle could get a clean shot off here, I mean, if he can step into this throw, he's got a chance to hit Marv. There's a bunch of guys that are running open here, and I mean, if he catches this, he's at the 20, and if he gets it, he can split the safeties and go. So, again, it's the game of inches. Like again, I don't like to be the guy that says, "Oh, well, woe is me back in my day," whatever. But like that's kind of what it is. Like you got to step up when you need it, and that's hard for guys like Carson Hinsman and Donnie Jackson to miss that twist at the most opportune moment. Because like that was a 4-man rush, and again, if you watch it, I bet, yep, Carson trips him. Here, I'll show you it from the back end. Because I usually like if a guy who's like as big and strong as Donnie Jackson just falls down like he got shot by like a sniper rifle, it usually means he got tripped. So you watch this, he's setting back. Again, like Jimmy should be more physical on this and just kick back. And X is right here. I mean, X could probably stay in there and chill. If X wanted to be excellent, he could have just ran right through this guy. He probably doesn't probably thinks we have it. But Carson, this side is clean. We got our guys over here, but again, Carson, this is just one of those unfortunate things where Donnie's, feels like he's got the guy gripped up and he trips. He literally trips on Carson's foot. So, it looks like he gets pancaked, but in reality, this is part of playing O-line. So yeah. And it happens at the worst possible time where, you literally could have him, rolling into the end zone if he could step into the throw. So But yeah, I just like I said, it's hard because that's how close football is, folks. Like if he can step in and drive that ball, then all of a sudden it's we're excited and we're going to play Iowa and we're going to win the Big Ten. And when he gets hit as he's releasing it, it doesn't go anywhere and it gets picked and kind of is what it is. Got to the super chat, Dave Mathis. If no CFP, thoughts on Brown playing the bowl game so we can get a real look at him, and if need be, start making changes this offseason. Sincerely, Kyle isn't, quote, it now that the season is done. I don't know. I mean, Nevada, I'll let you take a shot at this. If we don't make the playoffs, I think a lot of guys are either going to transfer or declare for the NFL. So this could be like a spring ball 2.0 type team, just in my opinion. From what I've heard, like, I mean, if we were playing in the Orange Bowl against like Louisville, like some people are projecting, I can't see Marvin. I can't see Mecca. I can't see Trey. I can't see a lot of guys playing in that game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think that's just welcome to college football in 2023, and I think it presents some unique challenges. But would I play Brown heavily in that game to see what you have? Absolutely, I would. Maybe it keeps him around. Maybe it keeps him engaged. Maybe it keeps him from entering the transfer portal. But on that last play, and I don't want to see it again just because I don't want to relive it again. But that's where you want to have a quarterback with just a little bit of mobility that can kind of move around in the pocket
Oh yeah.
because I mean, that wasn't like that was a jailbreak. That wasn't like he was like hemmed in from all sides and there was no escape from, four guys colliding at once at the point. That's my biggest issue with Kyle has been his pocket presence. And, he doesn't have a good feel in the pocket. He doesn't move around well. I mean, you know what J.J. McCarthy would have done in that situation? He would
Oh,
have slid up to the right, stepped up in the thing, and then hit Marvin down the middle for a touchdown. I'm telling you, that's what would have happened. And we don't get any of that. So it's unfortunate that Donnie's got to be the whipping boy, or Carson's got to be the whipping boy, or the two of them got to be the whipping boy, or whatever. But man, it is hard. And again, I don't need to tell you, you're an offensive lineman, but if you've got a quarterback that's a stationary target, it's very, very difficult to keep him clean all the time. And quarterbacks that can help you out by moving around, or the much maligned JT Barrett, he would have broken and contained that play and ran for 20 yards and ran out of bounds or something like that. But I, you know,
yeah. For me, I just think when you've got a guy that can move, it changes everything. Again, like on that play, JJ probably scrambles around the edge. It turns into a scramble drill. His receivers know how to work back to him. The guys that are short go deep. The guys that are deep go short. And then magically, you end up having some of these plays he made. I mean, some of the plays he made against us were completely unconventional, completely uncalled, completely unwarranted, completely whatever. And there were backbreakers for our defense. He converted on some third downs, some short yardage stuff, and it was tough to defend. I mean, I'm telling you, like those are the plays that defenses get driven crazy by, defensive coordinators get fired for because they're hard. It's hard to defend those guys that can move. Like I mean, you guys watched Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts yesterday. Like I mean, those guys are both making $50 million a year, and they run a lot. They both rush for 2 touchdowns, and they can create on the edge, and it makes it a lot tougher when you when you can move. Like JJ McCarthy, we said all week leading into JJ's game that, keeping him in the pocket, keeping him from creating would be critical to beating him. And we didn't do that. Got another super chat. Thanks for the dues. Have you heard Malik Murphy is coming to Ohio State? I've not heard that. I mean, I know I would bet a lot of money that Ryan will go shopping in the portal. Ryan went after Drake May hardcore last year and really ticked off Mac Brown. I know that for a fact. So, again, Ryan knew what he had in Kyle McCord. He thought it was like a B tierish type guy, and Drake May is a top 2 pick in the draft. So, might as well throw it out there. I mean, they wanted Drake May, when he was coming out, and they figured they'd reach back out to him. But I think Ryan is always going to be, checking the portal out, seeing what's going on, seeing how's it going, seeing if he can improve that room. Because I don't think Devin Brown's going to be here next year. I think he's going to be gone. Unless Ryan Day gives him an assurance that, hey, you're going to have a real competition. Because if Ryan's going to say, hey, by the way, this is Kyle's team and whatever, then Devin's not going to stay for that. I think there's going to be a decent exodus from the program because a lot of these guys, they're not happy with their playing time. There's a lot of people that are going after them. And, I just think that's modern college football. Like, depth in modern college football is an illusion. And I think that that's, something where as guys are walking out the door, you better go get some guys coming in the door that are some veteran dudes. So, what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Malik Murphy, who's Quinn Ewers is back up at Texas, could he be coming to OSU?
See, this is one time where we disagree. I think Day is all in on McCord, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'll gladly eat crow on that if he can go out there and land a big stud. But I think you know, Ryan likes to have his guys, man. He likes to have his guys and his players. He likes to have his guys and his coaches. He likes to have people around him that agree with him and that nod and do that stuff. And that's just a fact. That is who he is surrounded himself with. And I think that I would be pleasantly surprised if he went and was able to upgrade, because I think in this age of 2023 and the way that they've kind of designed college football, it's not about being loyal to your guys. It's just you've got to take advantage of instantaneous free agency. You've got an ability to upgrade every position on your team from any other team that's out there. And if you don't do it, somebody else is going to be doing it. And there's lots of names that are out there in the portal. There's lots of people that are shopping for them. And that's just the new reality of football in 2023 and beyond. And also, you got to remember, football's changing with the playoff expansion. You're going to 12 teams in the playoff. So now it's not even about playing the Michigan game to end. It's going to be about, how can you kind of peak at the end come playoff time and win these playoff games. And, that's going to present a whole different set of challenges. So, I think that we just got to get ready for a change in the way that we've been doing business, the change in the way we've been viewing things. But I don't see Ryan deviating from his quarterback choice. That would seem out of character to me. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's gonna well, it'll be interesting. Like I said, I think that coaches are as faithful as their options. If there's a Justin Fields type guy in the portal, then magically he's gonna be our new quarterback. If there's not a guy to that degree, then we might get a Tristan Jivia. But I think that with how the season's ending up and the fact that Quinn Ewers could be going to the playoffs. Like Ryan's gonna go get an impact guy at quarterback. Jimmy Craig, thanks for the 10. Why do you assume Mech is gone? I think he's one of the biggest letdowns of the season, whether he was hurt or not. He played like a fourth or fifth round player, not a first rounder. Well, like Jackson didn't play last year and he went first round and he's doing fine in the league. And, I think Mech will be a guy that he'll get healthy and he'll run well and he'll test well and he'll be a great interview and he'll get rave reviews for his character. And he's got, 2 years of solid film. So, I would be stunned if he came back. It'd be amazing if he came back. But I just think that, if there's this, sometimes these guys, they get that itch when they're ready to go after 2 years and they're getting projected as a first rounder, top 10 guy. And, they might not have the season they want in year 3, but it really doesn't matter. If you can run fast and you're going to test well like he will, it'll be the same as Jackson. Jackson Smith and Jigba barely played last year and he was the first receiver drafted. So I think it's going to be kind of the similar thing. Nevada, is there any way Emeka Egbuka comes back next year?
Is there any way? Sure, but I don't think he will do that. But I think the poster made a good point. It's not like he had like some bang up year. But I agree with you. I think the NFL drafts more off projection, and with the recent success of OSU wide receivers, if he goes to the league, he'll sign and already kind of accumulate significant wealth, and with an opportunity to go get better training and create generational wealth. So I think he's gone. I think we got to be ready for it. But if there ever was a position we could afford to have that happen, it's wide receiver because we're well stocked.
Yeah, and like I say all the time, like sometimes it's not bad to slide down the first round because where Jackson landed was perfect because he's between Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, so he has no pressure at all. He's got a good quarterback in Geno Smith, who's a South Florida Express kid. He didn't have to carry the load year one. It's kind of like with Olave. Like Olave landed in New Orleans, and he's got Mike Thomas there. He's got a decent quarterback. Derek Carr is a multiple time Pro Bowler, so it's not total chop liver. But I think sometimes it's a blessing for some of these guys to land in better situations. You got Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is like a top 5 receiver in the NFL, and he's got the worst quarterback situation of all time, and he's had that for 2 years now. So, I think sometimes if you slide down a little bit, you usually get to land with a better quarterback and a better infrastructure. And I think that's important for these young guys. I mean, not everybody's like CJ Stroud. And even CJ, he goes to the Texans. Like, they've got Larry Tunsil, who's like a $30 million a year left tackle. They've got Shaq Mason. Like, they've got like real dudes on their O line. Now, they didn't have a lot of skill, but CJ's making it work with having a great left tackle and some good linemen. But I'd be shocked if Emeka came back again. I think that room is a culture of 3-and-out in first round, and I think he's going to continue it. Nevada, what what else this weekend? I mean, again, like, how are you feeling? You were like 3 days out now from the game. Again, it was a 6-point loss. It was tough. I'm with you. I don't like the former players calling out the staff and fire Ryan Day and fire everybody and we're soft or a bunch of whatever, because it's a 6-point game. It wasn't like we lost by 30. It's not like we got ran out of the gym. And again, not accepting of losing to Michigan ever. So don't go put that out there. Oh, Kirk's fine with losing to Michigan, but like, there's different degrees of disappointment and anger with a loss. It wasn't like we mailed it in. It wasn't like we got boat raced. Like, we made too many mistakes, but it's not like we didn't belong on the field with those guys. But what are your thoughts after 3 days and a bunch of rewatches of the game?
Well, look, I mean, there's like a number of things, but I was in a discussion on the board today about and I've said this before. Don't want to be the old guy to repeat himself, but when you have 4th and 1 from your 46-yard line, you should never be punting. And I'm just talking about simple analytics. The analytics, they have charts for all this right now, and the
Yeah.
analytics say that if it's 4th and 1 from literally anywhere on the field outside of your own 9-yard line, the percentage play is to go for it. That's just the math. That's the math of doing what you're doing at that point. So 4th and 1 to punt from the 46 was just, see, I think with Ryan, Ryan does that before game dance contest, mosh pit, jump around. Everybody's pushing Ryan and he's doing all that stuff. And to me, that's kind of the false bravado stuff. That's the, hey, look how loose we are. I'm in a mosh pit with my players and we're jumping around before the game. And I've always felt that the great head coaches could demonstrate during the game how loose they are and how fearless they are and how much belief they had in their team by the way that they dictate the game and by the way they call the game. And that's why I think going for it in that situation instead of punting, instead of doing it was, I mean, despite all the math that's just screaming for it, it was just the right thing to do. And I just don't understand why Ryan can't see that, because he's clearly a brilliant guy. He's clearly an intelligent guy, a high achieving guy. He's got all the resources in the world. He knows the math of this. This can't have escaped him. This is every coach at every level of football understands this math. But despite even knowing that and all that, he punts. And that's the biggest mystery to me of this whole thing is what is it inside of him that when this game gets going, that he just becomes so risk averse and is just looking for paths, paths either to not be criticized or not to not to be blamed or not to do it. But I think he puts himself in a position where his path to victory becomes so narrow that they have to play a perfect game to win, and that's what it was going to take for us to win. It was going to take a perfect game, and we couldn't make any mistakes because we weren't forcing the action. And what ended up happening, we made a mistake. They got down to the 7-yard line. They scored 7 points, and we lost by 6. So, it's kind of like playing the prevent defense. Sometimes the prevent defense is the worst defense you can play because it gives the other team a kind of a chance to breathe. And I look at it as a fan. Okay, think of it as from a fan standpoint. When it's 4th and 1, and the other team's got the ball. Well, you remember this. You remember this during the freaking Illinois game when you
Mm-hmm.
guys were playing Illinois.
Yeah.
I believe this was in
I, I,
'07.
I know right
It
where
was
you're
4th
going.
and 1. It was 4th and 1, and Trussell called timeout
Yep.
on the play, and Illinois changed their mind during the timeout and went back out there and went for it and got it. And it's like, as a fan, I know that whenever it's 4th and 1 and the other team lines up the point, up the punt, I'm thinking, oh, please punt. Just please punt. Don't fake
Oh
it. Just
yeah.
please punt. So how can that be a good decision for us to be doing that? Because that everybody, all the Michigan fans in the stadium are going, please punt this, Ryan. Please punt this, please. So you're doing exactly what they want you to do. That can never be the right decision. But my rant's over.
No, I agree. I mean, I remember that I was sitting on the bench and Trust called timeout. He didn't like the defense, and all of a sudden they go for it, and I'm like, God, I mean, stopping a 4th and 1 versus a team, especially with a running quarterback like Juice Williams, is exceptionally difficult. And plus they got Mendenhall, who was a first rounder. I mean, they had like real runners that year, and it's like they had Regis Ben. I mean, they had like legit skill and guys that could hand the ball to that could get a yard, and I just, I remember it was like crippling watching the clock just bleed. Like there was like seven left on the clock, and we never got the ball back. It just bled down, and we had the number one defense in the country, number one against the run, 65 yards a game or so. I mean, number one total defense, and Illinois, they converted, and it just crushed us. Review Tube, thanks for the 20. Appreciate you, my man. I don't recall any first year QB at other programs, whether it's yours or Jane Daniels or Bo Nix or anyone playing any better than Kyle McCord for their first start. So why are we so down on Kyle not improving year two? Well, I mean, I'm not down on him. I just, I think that his ceiling isn't very high. I think he's a nice player. I don't like the mobility. I don't like the pocket presence. There's a lot of parts of his game that I'm not a big fan of. But, again, I think, could he be better? Sure. Does he have a nice arm? Sure. Does he start slower than any quarterback I've ever seen? Yes. And he turns into Tom Brady in the second half. So, I don't know. Like again, Kyle's got to have uh, a whole new cast of characters as weapons next year. All the receivers are gone, the tight end's gone, and the running back's gone. But I mean, I think he's got upside, but he's just not my kind of quarterback because he's not mobile. He can't move at all. So, I think that it'll be interesting. It'll be a big offseason for him. It'll be interesting to see if Devin Brown has told us a true competition, which I think would keep him here, versus if he's told that, this is Kyle's team and buzz off, because I think Ryan could go either way with that. But what are your thoughts, Nevada? I mean, do you agree that any other first year coaches or excuse me, QBs at major programs, whether it's yours or Jane Daniels or Bo Nix or anyone, could play better than he did their first start? Because I feel like, like CJ was better in his first year. Dwayne Haskins was better, but your opinion.
Well, Kyle's kind of an enigma, man, because I really have mixed feelings about Kyle. But when it gets right down to it, I don't think Kyle is a bad quarterback, and I think we can win games with Kyle. Having said that, I think his lack of mobility makes offense for us so hard. And I just think that we are such an outlier in all of football right now, having the quarterback who can't run, um, that I think it really inhibits us, and it really limits in terms of what we can do. And just go through every quarterback, just go to any quarterback at any level of football right now, and they all run. They all
Yeah.
the age of the immobile quarterback is over, man. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
They don't exist anymore. And and certainly in college football they don't. So if you have a quarterback that can't run, then he better just have a golden arm, doesn't make mistakes, always puts the ball in the right place, doesn't start slow, does and we don't get that. So this isn't a diss on Kyle. I just think that his lack of mobility, whether it be unwillingness, or being, but I don't think he's that unathletic. I think he's athletic enough to run. I think that Ryan Day just coaches us out of him. I really do. I think Ryan Day coaches these guys not to run, and that's my single biggest criticism of Ryan in terms of the quarterback position is his unwillingness to run the quarterback. Because I think that is he did it with CJ for 2 years. He did it with Justin when Justin was here,
Yeah.
and I think that's a huge mistake. And I think this year it came back to bite us because we didn't have guys with golden arms. We didn't have Justin Fields to bail you out. We didn't have CJ Stroud to bail you out. Now you're just going with a quarterback that's good, but doesn't have mobility, or has the mobility coached out of him. And then where are we at? 38th in offense.
Yeah.
38th. Ohio State, 38th in offense. And we're talking about the defense. We're talking about fire Knowles. Oh, the defense let down. Guys, that's not where the problem is. The elephant in the room is the play calling and the offense. It's not the defense. It's like,
Yeah.
wake up. Look at the number. We played the same teams. Like, oh, the schedule. We played the same teams, and we're 38th in the country in offense. That's a
Yeah.
problem. But
Yeah.
that's just
And I think in modern football, especially when you get to the league and you see how good these pass rushers are, if you can't move, you're dead. You have no chance. Like you look at the top quarterbacks in the league getting these big extensions. Mahomes can run. Kyler. Joe Burrow can run. Herbert can run. Josh Allen can run. Jalen Hurts can run. Again, because in the league, you don't have like Paris and DeWand every week blocking guys from Indiana and Purdue and maybe Michigan. Like you got guys you got a practice squad left tackle going against Nick Bosa or Myles Garrett. So you better be able to boogie because those pass rushers are no joke in the league. Brandon J, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you. Who set the tone with a hard hit, big play, and fighting hard? It's not like they were told not to do it to avoid target calls, to avoid mistakes. We played to not lose. No blitz, no risk, no win. I didn't really see any tone setters. Again, I'm not trying to be that guy, but I don't know who was playing with like a ton of emotion. Like Davison was out there. I mean, he seemed like he was busting it pretty good, but there were reports that it was quiet going in the locker room, which doesn't mean anything, or coming out of the locker room, which doesn't mean anything. But I don't I don't really know who the big emotion guys were. It's hard because your captains are Cade Stover, who doesn't talk a ton. Tommy Eichenberg doesn't talk a ton. Tommy was played with one arm, so it's hard for him to be a big guy. And then you got X who plays 15 plays a game. So I don't know who the big leader is, who's the big guy. I mean, Mike Hall played a lot of energy. Jack Sawyer played a lot of energy, but I don't know who the big leaders are. Nevada, the question was, who set the tone with a hard hit, big play, and was fighting hard? It's like they were told not to do it to avoid targeting calls, to avoid mistakes. He played not to lose, no blitz, no risk, no win. Your thoughts?
well. I just think I mean, I love me some Jim Knowles, but we blitzed 4 times in the game, and Jim Knowles loves those blitzes, but he wasn't dialing them up against Michigan. And I'm not sure why that happened, and that to me, that's a fair criticism. I'd like to know why because I think when you do that, that does create some pressure. He took a lot of abuse last year for being too aggressive. Well, this year, and we clearly weren't aggressive enough. So, they've got to find that happy medium. I'd love to know more about where that came from. Was that a Ryan Day directive? Was that just Jim Knowles just being afraid to do it? Whatever. But we needed some big plays, and didn't get them. I don't know. We didn't have the juice. I thought the kids played hard. I don't think we might have worn down, got a little tired, but I thought we were playing hard the whole game. I was really proud of the effort. This was certainly not. I mean, we thought. Look, I thought till the very end we were going to win that game, and I thought even on the last play, if Kyle just steps up a little bit to the right and slides over, that he's got time to deliver the ball on time and on the money. But you're not going to have a freaking perfect pocket every single time in that situation. You have to understand that. And that's what's frustrating to me about watching stuff like that because, I know it gets laid on Donnie Jackson and this, but got to move around, man. You can't be a stationary target.
No, I totally agree. Todd Shreve, appreciate you, man. Thanks for the deuce. McCord loses Marv, Mech, and Stover. How can he be good? Well, I mean, like CJ, his first year, he had Garrett Wilson and Olave, and he had Jeremy Rucker. Like he had like really good skill guys, and they all went pro. And then the next year, they replaced with Marvin and Emeka, and Jackson was supposed to be number one. He was out for the whole year. Cade Stover stepped in, and did a great job at tight end. So I think that I don't worry about the skill guys. I mean, honestly, we get JJ Smith up here with Ennis and Tate and the Rogers twins. Like, I think we'll be fine. I really do. I think it's on Kyle to get better. I mean, I think Kyle's going to be a better leader, a better player. I think it starts with Ryan. Developing him. I mean, this is going to be a big offseason for him. He's got to improve his pocket presence. I think he just has to be a better leader. He has to be more vocal. Really understand the game more, and I think we'll go from there. Nevada, again, I don't worry about the skill guys. Do you?
No, don't. I don't. That's the one thing I don't worry about. I mean, he'll have plenty of targets to throw to. He's just got to get better about delivering the ball on time. I just don't know how you fix the mobility issue because again, I don't think it's that Kyle has cement feet. I think that Ryan Day coaches those guys not to run,
Yeah.
and that that's just weird. But we've seen it. I mean, we have a large enough sample size to know that's happening, and and I understand the concern is, well, we don't want QB1 to get injured because if QB1 gets injured, we have to go to QB2. But man, I don't think you can coach. I don't think you can coach scared about injury. I don't think you can coach scared about giving up a little bit of field position or what if something bad happens or what. I think you've got to be secure enough in yourself that you say, look, we've got great players, we're going to just go with this, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, that's fine. And if people get hurt, then hey, it's the next man up. We're not going to be reckless with this, but I think we're trying to do offense with one hand tied behind our back, and it's tough to do unless you have an NFL MVP like C.J. Stroud back there or Justin Fields. Um, I think offense is hard when you don't present any type of a running threat.
I totally agree. Well, let's wrap this thing up, Nevada. Any final thoughts for a Monday? We'll wrap this thing.
No, I think college football playoff thing tomorrow is going to be really interesting to see where we're doing. Again, I'm predicting we come in at 5. Could be wrong. We could fall as low as 6, but I don't think so. I think we'll be 5 tomorrow, and I think with Florida State, if Florida State loses and Georgia beats Bama, I think we'll get in over Texas. But that's just Nevada Smith. So there's definitely still a path to the playoffs for sure. So don't give up hope.
Yeah, I totally agree. Appreciate you guys kicking it with us. Again, we could eat about 3 losses. We'll be in good shape. But the Bucks, they're going to be back this year and next year. It's going to be a really good team next year. So I'm excited to see some of these young guys and project their depth chart out. With that being said, if you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click the little alert bell. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Let me know what changes do you think are going to happen in the Woody Hayes. There's a lot of winds swirling around there, so I just want to let you know that. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop Family. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. Keep the faith. Let's get a couple losses, get in the playoffs, sneak in, and do some damage. But we can do that. I'll see you on BuckeyeScoop.com. Go Bucks.